Good morning, everyone in the US. Good afternoon to everyone on this side of the Atlantic. We're very privileged to have Gonzalo with us today. Gonzalo is the Technical Director of Tempos Vega Sicilia, responsible for the production of all of the group's wines. So he will take us through the various wines and properties that are under the Tempos Vega Sicilia banner. So Gonzalo, thank you very much, and please, when you're ready.
Well, thank you for having me here. Please ask me as many questions as you have, and I will try to answer. Okay. Well, the first project where we are going to speak is Tokaij. Tokaij is Hungary. Hungary, in the late 80s, beginning of the 90s, the communists finished. Tokaij was a region where they used to produce a fortified wine with sugar for the communist countries. But when the communists finished, they didn't have any market for these wines. So they have to reinvent themselves. That's when Andras Baxo, who was at that moment the CEO of the cooperative, the estatal cooperative, or the cooperative of the stat, start opening the doors to different people who were investing in Tokaij. There were many French people that went there. There were some people from UK that they went to Hungary to invest in Tokaij, and there was only one Spanish people, Familia Alvarez, that we went there to invest in this project. It has been, well, after that, and that was in 1993. At that moment, Andras started working for us. And for me, it has been a long way because it has been a long way. But a lot of people ask me why we invest in Tokaij. And I always say that we always invest in different regions because we have to feel passion. And Pablo, when he invests there, he really feels passion about Tokaij. He really feels passion about the sweet wines, desert wine, and especially from Tokaij. Once he had the opportunity to buy in an auction wines from 1866, 1876, and he had them, and he fell in love with Tokaij. And that's why we start investing in Tokaij in 1993. This is the new winery that was built in 2000. Before that, we were renting a winery in Sarospatak, a village just nearby Tolstoy. This is another photo of the winery. In fact, the winery is gorgeous. It's really nice. Mandolas, we start producing dried wines in around 2000. And we believe that we were the first one to produce dried wines. At the beginning, we tried with different varietals like Hasrebelu, like Zeta, but they didn't really work for us to produce dried wine. So finally, we decided to produce dried wines, but only with forming. For us, we have a huge potential, and we believe in this potential. And that's why since 2015, we start working with a Burgundy consultant. So he's helping us to keep improving the quality of the wines. So for me, Mandolas is forming is a really nice varietal, but you need to work it in a proper way. So the things that we have been improving with this consultant is the first point is when we pick the grape. And nowadays, I think we are more precise when to pick it. I was telling before to pick it al dente. Here, in the case of the forming, it's also very important when to pick. Also, it is very important how do you do the fermentation. If you have more or less lees, we are working like in Burgundy, a little bit more dirty. The mass are more dirty, and then the percentage of oak that you use during the fermentation against the stainless steel, depending how, and it's something we've learned with our consultant. For example, in 2018, it was a warmer vintage. We reduced the percentage of new oak during the alcoholic, and we reduced the percentage of new oak during the aging process. So he's helping us to adapt ourselves to be more precise, making wines and adapting ourselves to how is the vintage. But for me, fulmin is a varietal that needs a wood, but you cannot use too much wood, because if not, it can become really overwood. Even though we use really long toes and really light toes, still you cannot go more than 20, 25, 30% of oak. But if you age the wine, for example, in stainless steel, there is going to be a lack of sucrosity. You need to, the wine is going to be really straight, but you need to round this wine. That's why you need to use wood, and that's why we are thinking now to use big foudres to work with wood, but with less oak. And one of the points that in the future is going to help us a lot to improve the quality of the wines is our clonal selection. We've been vinifying this clonal selection since 3 years ago. We have now 10 clones that we use it in a new plantation or in the plots where we are overgrafting the Hass Lebelou. And these clones are 100 times better than the clones we had for the Mandolas, the 95 or the 85. So for me, these things assure that we can keep improving the quality in the 5, 6, 10 more years. We can keep improving quite a lot the quality of the wines of Mandolas. Well, here you have the fulmin. This is a clone of fulmin. This is one of the best clone of fulmin. I like it very much. And here you have the different plots. This is the landscape of Tokaij, of Tolsva, where we have here Gyriaparos, Kutpatka. Here there's here is Mandolas, and just right there is another Siroca, where it's a plot where we are going to start planting the fulmin, the dried fulmin. The name of Mandolas came from from this plot, because there are almond trees all around the plot, and that's why this plot is called Mandulas, the plot trees. So that's why we call Mandolas. So 18 naturally was a little bit warmer vintage. That's why we harvest quite quick. And that's why we reduce the new oak during the fermentation, and we reduce the percentage of batonnage. We reduce the quantity of batonnage, and we didn't do any malolactic in these wines. Sometimes fulmin needs to do some malolactic, especially, for example, in 2016, that it was very rainy. But when we do malolactic, we don't want to do it 100%, because you lose in finesse, and you became a really fat wine, but not with elegance and not with fresh air. So that sometimes you have to do some partial malolactic, like in 16, but vintages like 18, you have to do no malolactic. Any questions? No. Understandable?
Excellent.
Excellent. Okay. So there are many points that we are working very hard to keep improving, because we really believe in this wine, and we really believe that we can do better and better. This is our oldest vine we have. Is where we took out the shoots to do the massal selection, and after that the clonal selection. Petras it's in a specific soil. Here we have more andesite, and it's really black, and you have a lot of precious rocks, and this is our Grand Cru. Here, since 2017, we are producing a small quantity of wine of Petras, and it's going to be our Grand Cru. The minerality, the intensity, the complexity, the length of the wine is just amazing. So for me, this is something special. And in the other side of the mountain, you can see here in the right hand, here is the winery. Okay. Everything is okay?
Gonzalo,
Yes,
I have a question, Gonzalo. Is that the typical way that you train the vines?
The typical train is in this one, the mandolas.
Yes.
That was the old way. This is Goblet. That was the old way, and it's all the vine that have around 80 years. But nowadays, the typical is in trailing system. I don't know how you say in trailing system.
yes, the trellising or the training.
The density of plantation is 5,500 vines here, but in this case we have around 8,000 vines per hectare, and that was the old way of doing the trailing system. Here you have to pass with a horse through the vines because you cannot pass with a tractor, and everything is here. Andras is trying to do biodynamic and just to see what's going on. And for us, this is like the special Grand Cru we have in Tokaij, in Oremus. Okay. More information? Well, we also produce.
Gonzalo, one quick question. I'm sorry, I was slow to unmute. Is it true that Mandelas was the first dry ferment in the U.S. market, or just in Hungary?
Sorry?
Was Mandelas the first dry ferment that was widely available?
Well, I think we were the first to produce dried wines in 2000, but it's true that we didn't focus until 2015 to improve the quality. Nowadays, everybody's producing or Harsh Levelu or Furmin. But at the beginning, there was only us that we were producing dried wines. And I think well, you know, all Mandola. For me, it's a beautiful, crispy with acidity. Blind tasting, you could think that you are drinking a Chablis or something like a Chardonnay. And, the minerality, the verticality of these wines, and it's a beautiful wine. It's a beautiful wine. And Petras, we think we're going to do blind tasting with some Batar Montrachet, and let's see what's going on with these Petras. But we really believe in the Petras wine that we are going to. I don't know when we are going to commercialize, but it's bottled since 1 year ago, year and a half ago, and it's huge. Hello?
Thank you.
Okay. Well, Tokaij is known for the desert wines. There are many different desert wines. We produce 3 putoños, we produce late harvest, 5 putoños, 6 putoños. For us, what we've done since 2015, we have nearly 100 hectares, and we've divided. We divide 45 hectares for dried Furmin, and all the rest we use it for sweet Furmin, for sweet wines. So we do a viticulturist for sweet wines, and we do a special viticulturist for dried wines. For us, in desert wine, we use different varietals, like you see here. Furmin, of course, for us is the main one. Haslevelu, that is also very important for sweet wines. Theta, this one that I'm never going to know how to pronounce it, hard. And also we use, you don't say here, but we also use a little bit of Muscat. With all these varietals, we need that the botrytis, the installation of the botrytis. So we need around 40–50% of the percentage of the installation of botrytis, so we can go and pass. For the late harvest, we pick the whole bunch, and we press and we do the fermentation, and then a little bit of aging in barrel. But for all the Azu wines, we have to pick berry by berry, like you see in this picture. So, for example, a 3 Putoños is a wine that have three baskets, like this one, of 25 kilos that we put in 136 liters mash. During 2 days, the berries expand, and after 2 days, we press and we take out the mash, and the fermentation takes place until the winter comes. For 5 Putoños, it's 5 Putoños, it's 25 kilos multiplied by 5, so it's 125 kilos of berry Azu, and in 136 liter Azu. And for 6 is 6 baskets of 5 Putoños. So the balance between all of them are different in terms of sugar, acidity, and alcohol. It's very important for sweet wines, the balance between these 3 elements: the sugar, the alcohol, and the acidity. So for normally in our case, we keep producing 3, 5, and 6 Putoños, and in our philosophy, we want them to be completely different. In late harvest, what we want to produce is something more easy to produce, because you don't harvest berry by berry, you harvest the whole bunch and you press it, so it's much easier to harvest. But what you want here is something, it's a fresh approach of what you can have in a dessert wine. Easy to understand, easy going, easy drinking, easy to pair. You can pair it with spices like curries or moles, or you can with desserts. So you can do it, or you can take it like an aperitif. So an easy way to start understanding the dessert wines. Then we produce a 3 Putoños. More Putoños you have, more complexity you have. A 3 Putoños, it's a product between the 5 and the 3. The 5 Putoños is like the wine that they always have been doing in the 19th century, with this quantity of sugar, 156 grams per liter. The acidity depends on how was the vintage. So more Putoños you have, more complexity you have, more full mouth you have, more acidity you have, more persistent, but not everybody are able to understand this type of wine. So if you want to show a dessert wine, you can start with the late harvest and keep going to the 3, then to the 5, and then to the 6. And Essencia is something mystic, but I will explain this a little bit after. You can see here that the yields to produce these wines they're really small. To produce 10 bottles of Essencia, you need 1 hectare. So they are wines that you need you need a lot of botrytis, and the yields are really low. To be winemaker of this type of wines is really hard, because you need the perfect conditions. So the botrytis to make this botrytis stand into the berries. So it's like praying Oremus all the time to see if the botrytis is taking place, and so on. So,
Gonzalo, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So when you add the Azu berries to the vat, do you press them? Do you make any physical pressure on the grapes, or is it just left to macerate?
No, when we put the Azu to the vats, we put also one. If you want, for example, for 5 Putoños, we put 125 kilos of Azu berries, and we put 136 liters of must or wine that is starting fermentation. Okay, so during 2 days, this berry comes, and after 2 days we press the berries, so everything all the acidity, all the flavors goes out. Okay.
Yep, perfect. One of the other questions that came through the chat room was a A question about the style of Oremus wines, which one of the participants feels is slightly different to other Tokajs in terms of the minerality or a salty character that comes through on some of the wines, like the 5 Putoños. Can you explain the difference stylistically of Oremus to other wineries?
Well, there are different trends. Like there are people that prefers, for example, more Haslevelu in their blends. This is going to mean that their wines are going to have more sugar but less acidity, and there are going to be more honey wines and more round wines. In our case, we believe more in forming, so we have much more percentage of forming. Then the type of soil, we are located in a specific area where we have andesite and rhyolites, and in other parts they have different type of wines of soils. And also the aging. We do a sort of reductive aging of 2 years in barrel, but not really oxidative. And there are people that prefer more oxidative way of aging wines. So in our case, what we look more is for this vertical wine, for this more minerality, for the length of the wines, for the freshness and the finesse. I don't know if I answered your question.
I think that's very clear. Thank you.
Okay. Well, after the fermentation takes place, well, this is the Putoño, we rack the wines in the cave. This is their Patrimonio de la Humanidad. UNESCO Patrimonio, you say it like this, Patrimonio?
Yes.
They're the UNESCO Patrimonio, like this?
It's what do you call it? A heritage, a World Heritage Site.
That's it, perfect. And we age the Asu wines, we age them during 2 years in this cave. The caves are just gorgeous. We have 4 kilometers of cave. We are doing some works because we put lifts to down the barrel from outside. But when you are there, you breathe like I don't know what you breathe. It's like you're in another place in the world. You breathe peace, you breathe calm, and it's beautiful. And well, of course, these wines, I said before, when we invest here in Oremus, because Pablo tried a wine from 1866, and I had the chance with him to try this wine and to try 15 different vintages that finishes by 6, also 1956. We tried the 1866, the 1876, the 1906, and these are wines that can age hundreds of years. These wines are just one of the, for me, this is one of the most mystic places where you can produce wines in the world, and in Oremus and in Tokaij, you can do it. For me, it's just huge, it's just gorgeous, and I'm very lucky because I'm spoiled, because Andras, every time I go there, he opens me a special bottle. The last one, it was from the 70s, and it was, I think this year we are going to release a special box of 3 vintages, I think so, but it's wonderful, it's wonderful. So, and this is Esencia. Esencia is not a wine because you have only 2-3 grams of alcohol. And how you produce you harvest berry by berry, you put all this azu berry in this big, wooden vats, and by gravity, the mass goes slowly, and joder, what and we have this really concentrate mass of 550 grams per liter. And during 2 years, it stays in these glass recipes doing the fermentation. Plop, 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 plop. And it's amazing. I don't know what we're going to study this type of yeast, because it's amazing how they can fermentate with these tough conditions. Every time I go here, every time I go to Tokaij, Anders give me 1 or 2 spoons. And in the past, these Essencia were medicines. I don't know if they're medicine, but it's for sure that when he gives you that, you win a lot of strength. It's amazing. But well, this is Tokaij. It has been a long way. We start a lot of years ago. We have been doing plenty of different works. And nowadays, last year we didn't lose money. We win a little bit of money. But a question that Pablo always say, if we should invest now, we would do it. And he said to me, I don't know if I will have the strength to do it again, because I have been really, really, really long, but you have to feel passion to do this, because it has been a long, 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 long way.